Hey guys, it's Aubrey coming at you with my branded deck profile. Since I last uploaded my deck profile, there's been a few very minor changes. You'll hear me discuss some of them in my What Should You Play in Branded video. That is out before this video. And overall, since then I've won a lot more locals with this deck. I believe I am up to 11 with branded and 3 with tier. But not much has changed. My side deck has gotten a little more tailored for my locals. And overall, I think there are some changes that I should discuss. But I'll use the deck list I used last time I won a local. Starting off with the monsters. 3 Fallen of Albaz. Unfortunately, only 2 oldies. I will be picking up my third one, but very essential piece of interruption. Obviously, the thing you're sending out branded fusion, and now he's just become like a super poly during our opponent's turn. Anything they special summon can go into sprint, and there's a lot of ways to get him in the graveyard, a lot of ways to get him out of the graveyard. Wind Broom is the easiest way. And he's just a very generally good card that you want to kind of have in rotation at all times. Let's go for Albaz's friends next. 1, 1, 1. Some people play 2 Quem. I'd argue you only need 1. So she doesn't compete with your normal summon, which is usually going to be a Luber. Albion is great because he can help unbrick some hands or get Retribution into the grave, Albaz into the grave, whatever you need to extend your plays. And then Mercurio is just a monster negate, which is really helpful, especially if you're still a big fan of the Puppet Lock. I cannot believe they printed Quem. This card is a custom card, being able to revive Mirror Jade. Next, we're playing 3 Alluvers. Unlike my Albaz, these are all ulti. And I will be picking up those ulti brand fusions the second they come out. But he's your normal summon. He's the guy. He searches the branded spell traps around here. As you guys noticed, probably I wasn't playing Kit. And that's because I just don't ever feel the need for her. There's like a million times where I'll have Kit and I'll be like, I want a Luber. And his floating effect is, or his not floating effect, well, his graveyard effect when a fusion monster leaves the field for pretty much almost any reason, is very good. Okay, there's a lot of tricky situations that it can just get you out of. For example, if the access code pop that, you can chainlink 1 Mirror Jade, chainlink 2 Alluber, targeting the access code to negate its effects. And it's also really good for chain blocking in the event that they like get rid of Mirror Jade. 2 Cartesia. I think this is a must, which is unfortunate because this card is $50. This card is legitimately so broken. She doesn't even have to use herself as fusion material, which is what can be really handy sometimes. This card does so much for the deck, and it's not even funny because like this card enables so many of the really bonkers plays that Branded can do now, along with Quem. And it's just, when they released this card, it was slept on a little at first, but now we've seen like the true capabilities of this card. And since we're playing a certain spell card, we have to play 2, so the 1 isn't just in our hand at random points. One Ad Libitum, 1 Desperate Tragedy. I could argue you could cut this very easily. I haven't found myself always wanting a branded in red play where we go into Chimera and get the destruction effects, but there are a lot of matches where I do find that I want that. And Ad Libitum is just generally useful because of being able to revive a spent Mirror Jade that you used for a fusion summon is really good. So in general, it's just a really good card, but I'd argue if you're looking for a card to cut, this is the one, because he is a very bricky card. If he shows up, then in your hand is a brick. And he's kind of not just... He's not as good as he used to be, is the easiest way to put it. But he's definitely still a crazy card. And there are some matchups where you really want to see this destruction. Where you really want to get that. There's matchups like Fluanderies where you kind of just need to get rid of 2 cards on the field at any given point in time, so they can't really tribute summon. And it's just, there are matches where it comes up, but I'd personally, if you're gonna play this, I think you should cut Puppet Nightmare, just so that's one less brick in your deck. Tragedy is really good. Foolish Burial target, good discard off opening, is a power play. His recursion for Branded Spell Trap is actually pretty nice. Only 2 Bestials, this is pretty standard. 1 Saronir, 1 Bestial Rebellion. Being able to get Lost face up is really nice. Being able to rip this Foolish Branded Spell Traps is really nice. These 2 actually help forward like your plays and your engine and benefit Brandon more than the other Bestials. This is a great send-off of Branded Fusion too. 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. You could cut this to 2, and nothing would change too bad. You'll still have that as a target for a certain other card. I personally have just loved having it. I run into a lot of Brandon, I run into a lot of decks where 1 well-timed Ash is enough to interrupt their play sometimes. But that's just personally me. You can cut this for other hand traps, or as long as you keep 1. 1 of this guy. The only reason he's in this video at all is because he was in a lot of those tournament wins. And not because I actually have cut him from any of the builds when I was running him. I'd argue you do not need to run this. I would absolutely argue that you do not need to run this at all. Some people are going to look at me crazy, but Brandon does not need this. And I think the lines are too niche and specific to go for. So I just believe that we could cut Puppet altogether and instead put out some insane endboards and explore the deck even further. But he's here because he was in a lot of my wins, unfortunately. Came up as a brick a lot. Let's get on to the spells now. We play 3 Branded Fusion. This is why we hate Ash Blossom, is because we love this card. Really excited for the ulti reprint of this card coming in the next OTS set. This is going to be so sick. And this card just does so much. Resolving it just generates you so much off of so little investment. It is kind of absurd and it is kind of broken, which is why cards like Ash exist in this world. But alas. Just in case we can't get to our opener to get to Branded Fusion, we have 3 Branded Opening to get Aluber or Quem out of the deck, whichever one you need at any given point in time. This card is, I'm pretty sure people said it was penny stocks when it came out. People thought it was bad and then it shot up because people realized, wait, this is really good. But now it's here at 3 because it is insanely good. That discard is for effect, not cost, which means you can trigger effects off of it. And there's just a lot of utility to be had with this one singular card because it gets you an Aluber or Quem out of the deck, which on their own search a Branded Spell Trap or Foolish something, plus whatever effects you get off the graveyard, plus or graveyard setup. And that's honestly kind of what's impressive about this card, is it does so much while having protection effect too, to prevent a fusion monster from being destroyed by card effect. A couple one-offs, 1 Branded in Lost and 1 Branded in Red. Not as many one-ofs in this deck build as other builds previously had. Branded in red is broken no matter how you cut it. It becomes insanely good when ad libitum is here. If we stop playing ad lib, I'd argue there's not as much need for branded in red. Although Chimera is still a very useful card. Lost just reads win you the game on the other hand, regardless of what it is. Because now the activations of your cards and effects that include a fusion summon can't be negated, which is ridiculous because that'll protect stuff like this from Ghost Spell. It'll protect so many things. And then on top of that, they can't even respond on summon window, which means you can get rid of their problem boss monster before they even have a chance to use it. Also, it searches any one monster dimension small enough alphas. That's also really good. There's a lot of really good targets for this. 3 fusion deployment. This one's probably not a big surprise. Summon Cartesia for free, or summon Albaz for free. Whichever one you need. If you're going second, it's pretty good. Forces out their hand in an interaction. It does come at the rough cost of a discard though. But it can be generally used for a lot of things, and this card being in this deck just makes it so nice. 2 one-of utility cards. Foolish Burial and Called by the Grape. Called by it's because we hate Ash in this house. Same with our next card, but Foolish Burial is good because it can combo start, as well as it can set up Graveyard very well. You can send Gimmick Puppet Nightmare off with this card if you still want to do the lock. And then you can just make Sanctifier and have at it. 3 Crossy Road. Crossout, I think, wins over Nadir Servant in the Crossout versus Nadir argument every time. While Nadir Servant can be really good, I just think that overall it has less applications and less impact than resolving something like Crossout Designator. Plus, in the mirror match, Crossout becomes a weapon because that hurts more than Ash. Because you call Crossout in draw phase and declare Branded Fusion, what are they going to do? 3 traps in the deck. 1 Retribution, 1 Banishment. Banishment in main might be a surprise to a lot of people, but I genuinely find so many times where this card comes up really helpful, and it really forces them to play around this card because they don't want their stuff banished. And that's why this card is so good, is it's non-targeting, non-banish removal that gets you a body on your field. This is also as really good in the Ditto, which I do find myself running into a lot. As for Retribution, yeah, it's just recursion. It is literally just recursion. But I do sometimes find myself liking that solemn effect. And then the third trap, we're playing 3 Infinite Impermanence. This is a very, very nice hand trap to have running around right now. I think your hand traps and your side deck should be tailored to your scene. But personally, I've generally found that Ash and Imperm are the most helpful to have, since Droll seems to be exiting the format. And that's it for the main deck. Let's go to extra deck now, since we're running a little longer than I intended. 2 Albion, the Branded Dragon, 1 Fallen of Abaz, 1 Light Monster. Really good, banishes, and as a graveyard effect, a set 1 is amazing. 1 Lubellion, you only need 1. Kashtira doesn't have to hit this anymore. Kashtira is going to try and snag Mirror Jade away from you, most cases. 2 Mirror Jade, just because Cash is still very real, so we do have to respect them. That's why we play 3 Albaz, is because he's also Interruption, but so Cash doesn't hit them off the top. This is probably one of the best boss monsters ever printed. Non-target banished, and then when he leaves the field, blows everything up. This includes by battle. 1 Sprint, 1 Rindbroom, this is face down, supposed to be Titaniclad, and 1 Albion the Sanctifier Dragon for the dragon forms of Albaz. Albion is here in case we want to do the lock, but there are times where some decks just cannot out him because he cannot be targeted or fused away. And generally it's good. If they put you under a floodgate while you're under dragons, you can make this, and then you can get rid of whatever's on their field, and then you can put them under their own lock. And usually, that actually came up to me at an invitational where he rivalry me, and I was under dragon at the time, so I just made this. I cleared his board, and he had to tribute set over the winged beast because it doesn't check face downs. So that way he could get a worm on the board to keep playing. Sprint is here because he is a target for Albaz during opponent's turn with their special summon monster if you don't have any. Rinbroom allows Albaz to come out. You don't normally make this card. Titanic Light is here as a send and a way to get into either Quem or Albaz during end step of whenever you send it. We're going to leave this face down here for a second because I don't actually own a copy of this card, but one Grand Guignol, this is one Despian Lulu Lilith, this is a Queritus, and a Masquerade. He's here because sometimes you just gotta burn a little for time. One Queritus because this card is an auto win in a bunch of matchups. Grand Guignol does so much for the deck. And then Lulu is a send target. Honestly, this could be changed out and this could be moved to side deck potentially. Because I don't find myself sending Lulu as often as I'd like, but when I do want it, it's there. The last couple of cards in our deck, Draco Stapelia and Chimera. This card is bonkers, being able to either draw two and pop one, or pop two, draw two, or draw one is insane, especially because it's non-target destruction too. So it's just crazy. And then Draco Stapelia is here because of Quem Cartesia plays to revive Mirror Jade, and then he's just a generally good card to have because of his monster negate. For side deck, 3 Nibiru the Primal Being. No one respects the big space rock, so big space rock comes down, they lose. Three Cosmics because we need back row hate, and this is probably the best single piece of best back row hate in the game right now. Quick play, banish, and that 1,000 life points is a small price to pay. We're gonna have to pretend I have 2 Magnemite and a Drew's Worm, just because light and dark decks are still around. So some of them do need their graveyard. Magnemite can also search Albaz, which is really cool. 1 Jinzo and 2. It's supposed to be 2 Gamma Seal because of Jinzo not allowing me room for 3rd. Kaijus are pretty helpful in this format. They can clear over some stuff that Brandon might have trouble outing otherwise. And then Jinzo is here as the game ender for trap decks if we can get him out. There are cards coming out in Monstrous Revenge that might be able to make him get out faster too. For trap matchups, which is going to be really good. And then the Kaijus are just really good removal to get over towers. And then last card, 3 Evenly Matched. Really good against some really tough boards because there's not as many boards that are putting up just a crap ton of negates. And if anything, it forces out their only negate. And if they don't have a way to negate it, then their entire board presence is just gone, and you're usually going to win next turn if you can keep them under wraps for a turn. I think this is a very cheesy card though, but it's so good to have. And that's the deck profile. Thank you guys all for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions or discussions, please do drop them in the comments and I will respond to them as soon as I can. I love to discuss Branded, and I would love to hear your guys' takes on the deck as well. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and have a great night.